Estate Chronicles, episode 6. My absolute most favorite times setting up and working on estate auctions is when a family member finds out that something that they have had or something that has been tucked away for years, decades even, is valuable, and that there is a market of people who really appreciate what it is. I'm going to give you guys a few of my favorite examples. So one was in a barn that was getting tore down in Weimar, and it was at their home place, so it wasn't where the executor of the estate lived anymore, but they were tearing down an old barn. And I asked her to make sure me or someone with a crew was there so we could just make sure that they weren't going to throw something away that had value. And we found an old porcelain sign, and it was like, if any of you guys have livestock, you probably have a feed room. So when I say feed room, you know what I'm talking about. But if not, you have, like, we used to have trash cans, and we would put the feed in the trash cans and then close it up. Well, this sign was like tucked, kind of like leaning in the wall behind like a feed bin, trash can. And we were like, we are selling this. And she's like, okay. And it wound up bringing her over $2,000. And this was a live auction. And I just remember her talking about how one of the reasons she was glad that she had called us is we had shown her things or made her look at things completely differently than what she would have on her own. So that was super cool. This next example I'm going to give you is an administrator of the estate, but the estate had close to 30 some odd heirs. And so they were working as a team collectively, going through the home and going through the assets. And one of the things that they found, or actually a couple of the things they found, first of all, they found silver coins located in various areas throughout the house. Like, you literally had to look in everything just to make sure that you weren't missing anything. And probably the most they were probably the most grateful for how thorough they were in literally looking through every book, because in the book they found old currency, like we're talking Civil War money. We're talking bank drafts before they put it on paper, but they put it on cloth. And they found those, and that was another collection of items that we sold. And I would say those bills averaged, I mean, I think the highest one probably went for around 3,000, but I would say they at least averaged probably $100, if not more. So those are things that sometimes when you're in it and you just have this mess of items and these things, you're not necessarily thinking about those things. And what was also interesting is this particular person, before they passed away, like, they were social, like, people talked to them, but nobody ever knows everything that people do or say or are interested in. And so it was kind of like a discovery of getting to know them as this was happening. And the last one I want to tell you is, I want to tell you because it is literally something, this was my very first on-site, like big on-site estate auction. And it was this store that had been shut up for, I mean, at least 30 years, might have been more than that. And it was an old, like, mercantile store, and it had things like buttons and like a sewing area. And oh my gosh, there were so many buttons, vintage buttons, buttons in jars, buttons in containers, buttons everywhere. And I didn't know anything about this, but I had a friend who had stopped in, and he has gone to many auctions, and he said, I need you to break these buttons up. And if he wasn't doing it, sometimes people come to us and say that because they don't want all of it. He told me that because they were collectible and there was a market for those buttons. And so we were selling, like, we sold some jars for like between $100 and $200. We sold this one very large container, and I think it was purchased partly for the container but partly for the buttons for well over $500. And again, those are things that, especially as generations go by, like, you don't even really know what you have sometimes until you get in it. So follow me so I can just share some of my experience and some of my knowledge, and you can learn more about the course that can help you get to complete settlement of your estate, and you won't miss anything.